Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Right now, Daniel Ives joins us, and but the greatest thing about Ives is when he's right, he doesn't do the I'm right thing. He just moves on to the next analysis. So I'm going to go CFA on you, Dan Ives. You're joining from Wedbush. The thing I don't get is the terminal value of revenue growth for these juggernauts. The media's out 1 quarter, if we're lucky, 3 quarters a year. The street's out 2 years. I was trained to go out 5 or even 7 years. Do they have persistency of revenue growth out to 2032?
I mean, look, I think for really the first time, maybe ever, big tech, because of this AI revolution, the visibility and the demand that they're seeing gives them what I believe is almost hyper growth into the next, call it, 5, 6, 7 years. And I think that's essentially what we're seeing play out here, whether it's on digital media, whether it's on cloud, across the board, even in the tariff uncertainty, big tech, Rock of Gibraltar. I mean, it's playing through as we see it.
Hey, Dan, I'm looking at Microsoft. I mean, here's a $3 trillion market cap company. The stock's up 10% in pre-market. I mean, it's just amazing here. Talk to us about what's got the street enthused here about Microsoft this morning.
Well, first off, I mean, think about all the rumors, abandoned data centers here and there. Well, how about them apples, right? You don't see. I don't think those abandoned data centers. I think that story is gonna dissipate, right? Because the reality is, like, as you're 200 bips above street, accelerating into the next quarter or two. I mean, to put some numbers in, I basically think, like, you could be looking at, for a typical Microsoft customer, you could be looking at $30 to $40 of every $100 that they've already spent, 30 to 40 incremental just on AI spend. You put that together, I mean, you could essentially be looking at cloud numbers that essentially double, every 2 years.
Dan, prior to the beginning of this year, all we talked about was AI for the past couple of years. And for the last, 4 months, we've talked about nothing but tariffs. How is the AI story unfolding now? Can you give us an update?
Yeah, look, I'd say, and we talk about it, that Tom referenced in the last few weeks, like all of our checks, I mean, we've seen to some extent almost an acceleration in a lot of the AI spend. Because I think companies are basically saying, like, this is, right, you cannot touch this. Because this is really what's driving the strategic sort of view of a lot of these companies over the coming years. And I think we're talking, what, 2.5 trillion that's going to be spent with AI, with really a small amount of companies that are going to benefit. And I think when it comes to tariffs, it's not impacted.
I got return on invested capital. Folks, one of the best screens in the Bloomberg terminal is WACC, Weighted Average Cost of Capital Study. It's what's called a Stern Stewart study from a million years ago. And I got a persistent 25% return on invested capital for Satya Company. Dan Ives, I got revenue pre-pandemic of 126 gazillion. They've done a double to where we are now. Do they get out to, I can't believe, I've never said this number. Are they going to get out to 500 billion in annual revenue, 2031, 2032? What's in the way of that?
I mean, I think 450 to 500, I mean, it's hittable. Because just given I don't see what's going to stop it, just given where companies are going. And just to, you put it in perspective today, like, you only have 2% of U.S. enterprises that have gone down the true AI path. It just shows, that's just U.S., none in Europe, none really, outside China, it's minimal in terms of Asia. It just shows where this is going, despite obviously tariff uncertainty.
Hey, Dan, we're going to get our good friends from Cupertino. Apple is going to report after the close here today. What are you looking for?
I mean, look, they're not going to give guidance, right? I mean, I'd be shocked. And I think the big question for them is, look, the quarter itself actually was pretty strong, and even some that could be pulled forward. The big question for them is, like, how do you navigate coming out with iPhone 17 in a typical cycle with these tariffs? What are you waiting for from the administration? Is there, And I think that's the question. Does the timing get delayed? We've talked about for Apple, obviously being bullish on, for a decade. This is, you don't look at it over the next 3 months. You got to look, as Tom always referenced, you got to look over the next 12, 18 months. I look at free cash flow. I look at the install base. And even if things move around, and I think negotiations ultimately come through, and I think they will be much more unscathed relative to, where we see things today when it comes to tariffs.
Tom, Apple's going to have over $100 billion of free cash flow.
Yep.
Well,
Dan, what do they do here with this free cash flow here?
Look, M&A has obviously been minimal. The way that they view it in Cupertino, it's basically from an ROIC. It's about the buyback, and it's about ultimately how they're going to continue to return that to shareholders.
Right.
Dan, dividends and that.
Dan, you can notice, you don't see this on Bloomberg Radio, but you see it on YouTube. What Ives does is he's at some golf course. Is he in Arizona?
I don't know where he is.
And he drops
I'm in an airport.
He drops in the Wedbush backdrop of some Class
like
D hotel room. He's like in a Motel 5 or a Motel 4 somewhere instead of some $2,000 a night golf course in Scottsdale or, one of the places Sweeney's been. Dan, I look at the belief here, and what I see more than anything is Mag 7 is under-owned by disbelieving institutions.
Definitely.
Retail America loves Apple. Okay, that's a generalization on my part. But what happens when we wake up this morning with 33% Azure growth rate, what we get from Amazon tomorrow, whatever. I just count the boxes at the bottom of the skyscraper. Dan Ives, where is institutional Wall Street and their
Tom
belief in these
it,
companies?
I think Keene nailed it. Retail stuck with it. Institutional, they've hit the exit, and I think they got they've got scared out a lot of the Mag 7, a lot of tech, and now guess what's going to happen over the coming weeks? They're going to have to double down, and I think that's why I think the run here that we can see in tech over the next 3-4 weeks, especially as we go through this, I think could be massive because it's under-owned institutionally because of all the fears. Paul talked about the stock being up 9-10% in terms of Microsoft. There was a view that they were going to miss Azure. They absolutely, this is an Aaron Judge-like performance.
Who?
Yes, is Aaron Judge having even a better year this year than last year, if that's even possible. Exactly. Hey, Dan, talk to us about Tesla, and I think a lot of people are probably most interested in Elon Musk. We haven't heard from him much over the past month or two on the Doge front. Where do you, and I know you've been very, very public and very outspoken about suggesting that he really needs to get back to his day job at Tesla. What do we know about Elon Musk and Tesla these days?
Yeah, and then obviously, the journal article, which obviously board denied, and that came out last night about looking for a CEO. Potentially, look, the reality is that that was a code red situation. And it was the most important conference call he ever had to do. And he handled it, I think, the best I've ever seen him. Pick Tesla. He's going to lead them into this next chapter when it comes to autonomous robotics. And ultimately, I think that more and more a growth rebound that we're seeing in China. And his days at the White House are done. However you want to call it, 1 to 2 days a week. I think this is the beginning of the end. The board was not going to take it. Shareholders are not going to take it. But that's, you're talking about one of the biggest disruptive technology companies in the world. Musk is Tesla. Tesla is Musk.
On your commute across the nation this morning, and of course on YouTube, Dan Ives with us with Wedbush.